Hello YouTube. Today we're discussing something that is not really brought up often on this channel, and it's going to be women. The reason why it's not really a topic that is going to be mentioned often is because 99% of the people who watch this channel are men. That being said, it does not mean that it's something that's not interesting to discuss. And it is interesting because it applies to everyone, meaning that certain tropes that I'm going to discuss in this video will apply to you whether you are biologically male or female. So we're going to get into that. First, I must say that this video was inspired by Curlean-X's video, so I'm going to put it in the description, and I would want you to go check it out because he made a very good, he made a very good small documentary footage, you can call it whatever you want, about Curlean-X's practices when it comes to selling programs to women, how garbage most of them, and I say most of them, all of them are, and just the predatory nature of this fitness industry towards everyone, but especially women, and we're going to discuss that. It's also a topic that is quite contentious and might not be politically correct. That being said, I don't really care. I don't think I'm going to be saying anything that could get that video striked. We'll see. I personally don't limit my speech. I say what I want to say. So, before we discuss this, it would be great if you could go on Curlean-X's channel, check his video out, like and comment. That being said, I'm not going to be using too much of his points because I think he made a tremendous job at recapping everything. So I don't want to repeat what he said. Instead, I'm going to rebound on certain points, things that I think need to be discussed more, and I might sometimes discuss certain things where I don't agree with him, right? Because we're different individuals and we disagree. It's healthy. So, let's start about the title of this video and the idea surrounding it in general. Should women train like men? Think about the way that sentence is phrased. This is the way the sentence is always phrased. You never hear people say, should men train like women? And there's a very easy reason for that. Fitness, YouTube fitness, sports in general are dominated by males. Let me stop you right there. I know what you're thinking. I'm not going to go into a feminist rant, but I need to say it because it's true. It's always been that way. I'm not saying it's bad or it's wrong. It's just a fact, okay? And when group of people enter as a minority within a group of people that dominates the space, they are going to have to deal with certain issues. So, first off, why is it that way? I'm not going to give you an history lesson, you should be able to tell by yourself. Because of the differences between the gender, males have always been the ones to go out on hunts, they have always been the providers, and therefore, certain people will also tell you that because of that, they accumulated an unfair difference in stature because they were able to get more protein from the hunt. That's something that is still being researched, but basically across the ages, men have always been physically superior. And at the end of the day, bottom line is, the stronger is the person who makes the law. So, by default, men have always dominated, right? Not saying it's right or good, I'm just saying that's what happened. And all across the board, it's always been that way where physical fields have always been male-dominated. And it's still the same today. If you look at blue-collar jobs, if you look at dangerous jobs, if you look at the army, it's mostly men. And for the jobs that are trying to diversify and get more women, usually the only way they can do that is to lower the physical requirements so that women can actually pass the test. Why? Because women and men are not equal physically. That is something unfair that is always going to remain unfair. Until we reach the age of men being shot with estrogen to lower their testosterone and make them less aggressive, it's never going to happen. Men are always going to be stronger. Does it mean that there can be no woman stronger than a man? No, there are plenty of women who are stronger than me and stronger than you. That being said, across the board, men are always going to be stronger on average, and the strongest individuals on earth are always going to be men. It's just a biological truth. Why do I say that? I say that because in this space, in this sphere of YouTube fitness, there was always a space that was occupied by women. It was always a small space, but it's always been there. Okay? It's a space that doesn't matter to the people who gather to the rest of that sphere, because why would you care? Right? Why would you care about that portion? You already have a client base that is mostly males. So you focus on males. This is why most of YouTube Fitness, even though it's not stated in the videos and the people who run the channel never say it out loud, we all know it. We make our videos for men, okay? If you're a woman and you're watching this, please don't take this the wrong way. I'm just saying that's the majority. That's what usually happens. This also means that if you make programs, if you make videos where you're trying to sell products, you're going to tailor it towards your client base, which is males. So you already have a situation on YouTube Fitness, in fitness in general, where women do not get any type of specific efforts put forth towards their needs. We are giving them, and I say we, I don't participate in that, but they are being given things that do not really necessarily apply to them. And that's the entire issue with this, where I might not necessarily agree with what some people say. Should women train like men? This entire title means that most likely we don't care. Because men train a certain way, we get results. So who cares if you get your specific needs met or not? You're going to train like a man and you're going to be happy with it. Okay, that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is there's always going to be people to sniff that out and realize, hey, if I can manage to market better and target towards the demographic that I want to strike better, I'm going to make money out of this. And this is where you see programs that are for women. And that is also wrong. And I'm going to get into that. But basically, both sides of the spectrum are wrong. So let's discuss that in more length. Let's talk strength training, because that's going to introduce my idea when it comes to men and women training. Strength training is essential, whether you're a man or a woman. Okay, that's across the board true. Meaning what? Meaning that if you're a woman and you've been sold into doing dumbbell kickbacks and bozubo squats and bend good mornings, and you were told that you would get massive muscular gains from that, you were lied to. That is the one side of the spectrum that has realized that if they sell cute, flowery trainings that are not too hard to women, they will make money out of it, right? It's like, basically, it's that side of fitness that just took a page out of the book of every single crash diet sold to women out there, and they just copied the exact thing because they just want to sell programs. They don't really care if you get results. So across the board, the methods of getting bigger and stronger are going to be the same for men and women. I cannot think of a single movement pattern that men should do that women shouldn't do, okay? In terms of being actually able to do them, right? To perform them and to get results from them. But we'll get back to that because that's not necessarily true. So that is the basis, okay? You will have a similar type of training amongst men and women. After that, you also have certain specificities within that, where men will, for the most part, lift heavier loads, okay, in absolute terms. Some people will say, oh, but women have better leverages for this or that. Okay, in specific fields where you push the performance to the top, yes. But if you go into a gym, a regular commercial gym, if you go in 100 of these gyms and you look around, who's strongest? Men, by a while. Why? Because it's just the nature of biology. We're naturally stronger, okay? You can discuss the cultural aspect of it, that women are not encouraged towards heavy lifting, and I would actually agree, because I have seen one phenomenon that's really interesting. When women start strength training, they actually get very strong, and they bend the strength standards for women. I think that those are standards that you will see shoot up in the future, and it's already starting, because women are starting to apply strength training principles and they get stronger. I have seen with my eyes women who were stuck at a plate squat go up to 2 plates without ballooning up in weight, because it clicked in their mind that they didn't have to stick with that one portion of women's training. They could actually train for strength and get results. So that's a good thing. It sort of serves the point of people who say men and women should train the same. After that, you have certain, characteristics. A fun fact, for example, there is one type of swimming competition that women dominate, and it's super long distance swimming, and it has to do with oxygen distribution and also biology, because their body floats better in a sense, so their buoyancy is higher, so it's easier for them to travel on the water for long periods of time. It's harder for them to be fast and sprint. That also applies to lifting to an extent. You will hear people tell you that women get less injured, women who have more estrogen recover from tear and were better, and there's also certain movement patterns where women are better suited. That being said, there's also the exact opposite. For example, if you look at the squat and you take 100 individuals, you will realize that the knee valgus is much more pronounced in women than men, okay? It has to do with hip, it's a certain type of hip disposition and the angle of the hips. But you also might find that women suffer less knee injuries, which would indicate that knee valgus is not as severe in women as in men. Those are interesting things. Those are things that contradict the men and women are the same, they should train the same. So these are things to keep in mind. You can also discuss RP abilities. Women tend to have an ability to rep very high intensity weights in a way that sort of makes the entire RP calculus faulty in a sense, because they shouldn't be able to rep a weight that is so close to their 1 rep max, and yet they can. So that's an interesting thing, but that's something to keep in mind. And from what I just told you, you should be understanding one thing and one thing only. The applications of volume and intensity might not apply the same for men and women. So that if you want an optimized program, you might have to consider that the two genders have different abilities and that you need to apply it differently for both. I just said gender, biological sex, whatever you want to call it. So that's one thing. That's one thing that to me contradicts the should women train like men? Well, no, not necessarily, because then you're just going to apply men principles to women and it might not apply. And that leads me to my third point, which is body goals. That's super important because most people who lift don't necessarily want to go into powerlifting and break records. They want to build a body that they love. Okay? What type of body do women want to build? Be honest with yourself. Do women want big arms? Do women want big traps, big upper backs? No, they want bigger lower bodies and they want toned arms. And if they can have abs, they'll take abs. That's 95% of women. Okay? So if you have a woman and you put her on a program with a ton of horizontal presses, a ton of curls, a ton of tricep movements, why? You're effectively forcing that woman into a men's program, which is stupid because it doesn't fit her goals. She doesn't want that. But she's going to be shoehorned into that because, well, we've developed that for men, so women do that too. Doesn't work that way. And also, keep in mind that there are differences between men and women in terms of lower body and upper body musculature. Men have a lot more muscle up there before any training. And if you want to talk muscle insertions, think about the pectorals, for example. Women have pectorals. Some people think that they don't. They have pectorals underneath their breast. What is the size of those pectorals compared to a man? It's minimum, okay? That's just the size of the muscle by itself. Then you have to take into account the androgen receptors in those zones. Making a woman blast her shoulders and traps is idiotic because they're not going to get a response from that. So you're basically just throwing volume at a body part that's not going to respond. Or you could be throwing that volume into the legs and get a much better response for a ton of reasons. Body fat distribution and also injury resistance that women tend to have in their lower body. And that that goes back to the body goals. You have to respect the goals of people. Now, of course, if a woman comes in and she says, I want a big bulked up upper body, you're going to have to tell the program towards that. Does it mean that you're going to put them on for example, a dominant upper lower, right? With much more dominance of the upper? No, because that might still be too much even for a woman who wants big upper bodies. So that is to me also the reason why I insisted so much on that title, because even the people, or rather, mostly the people who sort of present themselves as champions of equality and they say, yay, women need to train like men and we're all equal. They don't help women by doing that. And that's across the board something that's always very true. It's virtue signaling, and sometimes it's just sheer laziness because they don't want to have to put in the work. But you can actually put in the work and develop a stratus of lifting and programming that is going to be better suited for women. The work needs to be put in. It's going to need to be done mostly by women because they understand their body better. But you can't just say, okay, we have this for men. Women want to come in. We don't want women to just lift pink dumbbells. So just do like the guys do. No, it's brand new. We need to develop a new understanding of this, okay? And now we're going to talk about the differences in aesthetics and the differences in visual results between men and women when they strength train. And that is a little bit out of topic, but I feel like it needs to be said because it aligns with this channel. So, bottom line is, a woman cannot look like a man naturally. It is not possible. It's been said again and again, but it bears repeating. You will not, as a woman, become bulked up because you lifted weights. You don't have the genetic ability to do that. Unlike men who could potentially see a growth in testosterone levels as time goes by, you can also discuss androgen receptor sensitivity and potentially an increase of size. You don't have the potential within your DNA for this. Your body doesn't produce the hormones for this. So even if there's an increase in said hormones, it's going to be minimum because there was not much of it from the start because that's not your hormone. Female produce testosterone, of course, just like men produce estrogen, but a minimum quantity of it. And this is the reason why big shoulders, big round shoulders, huge traps, these are dead giveaways that that person is taking PEDs. They're taking male hormones. Why? Because their body doesn't possess the ability to develop those muscles in the first place. Something I've noticed with women in the upper body is there is a good potential for biceps in women. They tend to have deeper insertions. There is a good potential for upper back gains, especially the middle of the back. And the real delts are not too bad either. But for the rest, triceps are going to be okay. But you're going to see that shoulders and traps, and upper traps especially, it's going to be, they're most of the time non-responders to that. And that's perfectly fine because most women don't really want that. So it's fine, actually, it works fine. But if you let some woman jump on a program because she doesn't have the chance, she doesn't have a choice, it's the only thing available, that focus on these areas, what is the point? It's like having someone who's an amputee train their arms. You can't train something who's not there. It's stupid. It really needs to be said. And again, I truly think that it doesn't come from malevolence, it comes from laziness. We're still at we went from women shouldn't train to, oh, women want to train, okay, let them lift lightweight and do some random BS, to, okay, let's make you do strength training, but just do what we've always done and for men and you'll be fine. I think that the next step is going to be a completely separate discipline or a completely different application of programming and weight accessories and all of that stuff that is going to apply strictly for women, that is going to be tailored towards their needs, towards their biology and all of that stuff. So I think I've been ranting for too long now. So the conclusion, because there's a conclusion, to the title of this video, should women train like men? The answer is yes, and the answer is also no. Women should follow basic principles of volume and intensity manipulation linked with compound movements and progressive overload. This is going to be true across the board. This is also why I said at the start, even if you're a man, you can take some things from the tropes I discussed because it also applies to you. You're not special. You still have to follow those principles to get bigger and stronger as a natural. But because you're a woman, because you don't have the same bone density, you don't have the same limb proportion, you don't have the same hormonal production, you don't have the same body fat distribution, to reach your goals, you're going to have to apply them a different way. And don't let anyone tell you that your goals are not right. Don't let yourself be shamed into training like a man, because most of the time, those women don't want to look like men, but they're being trained like one, okay? And because they have a female body, of course, they're not going to look like a man. I covered that, but it's still not effective. And I'm going to finish with something I wanted to say and I never said, and it doesn't apply to anything. It's just funny. Have you ever seen a woman do a pull-up? I've seen one woman in my life do one pull-up. It was insane. Just to say also that because of the difference in body weight distribution, look at the mass that a woman carries in her lower body and the mass that she carries on the upper body. On the pull-up, it's the muscles of the back that carry you. So if you have very weak and small muscles in your back and huge legs and ass, doing one pull-up is insane. So again, when I see those people who say, oh, for women, if you want to do pull-ups, just do it like the men do. This just sums up my entire video. This is why it's stupid. It just doesn't apply. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.